I love Epiphany because it gives me an opportunity to preach one of my favorite homilies. And I'm new enough in Wayland that you haven't heard this before. So we're going to begin with a little Epiphany quiz on the gospel Colin just read for us. A gospel that we're all familiar with. Or are we? We'll give you multiple choice answers here. First question. How many kings are mentioned in the gospel story today? 1, 2, 3, or more? How many say 1? Got a 1, 2, got some 2s, 3, lots of 3s, 4. Okay, the answer is 2. King Herod and Jesus, the newborn king of the Jews. The only kingly references in the story Colin just read for us. Second question. How many wise men were mentioned in the gospel today? 1, 2, 3, or 4, or more? 1? Oh, now you're afraid. 2? 3? 3s? 4? More? Well, the answer is none. Today's gospel doesn't mention wise men at all. The words wise men did not come from Colin's lips as he read that gospel. Third question. How many magi were mentioned in the gospel today? 1, 2, 3, or more? 1, 2, 3. 3s have it again. 4? More? We don't know, because it doesn't tell us how many magi came. It just says magi. The gospel doesn't give us a number. Magi weren't royalty. They were astronomers. They were stargazers. Let me correct myself there. They're not astronomers. Those are legitimate people. They were astrologers. They kind of tell you your fortune. Our confusion here, all the wrong answers come because we listen more carefully to the lyrics of the opening song than we did to the gospel that Colin read for us. We pay more attention to the nativity scenes on Christmas cards and in churches than we do to scriptural accounts. The song, We Three Kings, poetically assumes that only royalty, kings, could have afforded such costly gifts as gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And since there were 3 gifts, the assumption was made that there must have been 3 kings to offer them. And that's what we find in song, in art, in poetry. It's a curious tale in the gospel here. Visitors from some unnamed place in the east seeking the Christ child by a star's guidance. I wish St. Matthew had given us a much more detailed report, but he does tell us a few things about the Magi's journey that might be valuable for us as we consider our own journey of faith. First, in following the star, the Magi had to look up and out of their own experience, beyond the ordinary, routine, day-to-day of their lives. They had to pay attention to something, to someone outside, above, and beyond them, even while they were following that star to lead them to a particular place, to an individual person whom they wanted to meet. And to follow that star, the Magi had to leave behind all that they knew best, the comfort of home, the familiar life as they knew it, all in order to make their way to something, to someone yet unknown to them. Following the star, the Magi had to let go some measure of their self-determination, and let God have a free hand in charting their journey and mapping the route to their future. Perhaps the importance of the Magi rests less in their finding the Christ child and more in what they were willing to sacrifice in seeking him. Their willingness to let go some things for the sake of finding something more valuable. They're letting God stake a claim on their hearts and have a hand in guiding and directing their life's journey. Epiphany's star invites us, as it invited the Magi, to look up out of our ordinary experience, beyond the routine of our day-to-day lives, to what might be if we were to follow Jesus when we find him. The star invites us to follow a light not of our own invention, but a light that leads us beyond our comfort zone. Epiphany's star invites us to leave behind things we cling to and depend on, trusting that God will provide gifts of far greater value. The star invites us to let go some of our own plans, to see what it is God might ask of us, invite us to, what God has planned for us. Some will find such suggestions impractical and foolish, but I believe that wise men and wise women will find these suggestions filled with possibility and promise. How about you and me? Will we rely on our own sense of direction to serve as the GPS on the dashboards of our hearts? Or will we be wise enough, courageous enough to follow a star, the star of Jesus, to seek Jesus, to find Jesus, and when finding him, to follow him? Those are hard questions. They're not easy decisions. I don't think it was easy for the Magi either. Even after following the star and finding the child, there must have been questions lingering in their mind. I tried to imagine the conversation the Magi might have had in the caravan on their way home after finding and visiting the Holy Family. I invite you to close your eyes and imagine that caravan, the camels, the Magi, and their conversation. Perhaps it went something like this. Frankincense, gold, and myrrh, that's what we came with. Now we go home empty-handed. Empty saddlebags on the camels, and our hearts filled with questions. I wonder, did we leave the presents with the right king? There was Herod in a palace, warm, fine, and plush, and the child in a barn, all muck and hay, and oh, the smell. Did we leave the presents with the right king? I think so. Remember Herod's eyes, green with envy? But oh, the innocence of the child who but cried and nursed at his mother's breast and slept. Yes, the child. I think I saw him smile. Clearly his parents needed the help. They were poor. But what newborn's parents would have turned down the gold? Not to worry. They were honest folk. You could see it in her face, in the way he cared for her and for the baby. They'll save our gifts for when they need them, and mark my words, they will need them. But did we find the one we sought? Was it his star? And what if we were wrong? His star it was, indeed, a star of mystery, beyond the wisdom that's ours, that's for sure. We may not understand, but we know it was his star. What next then? What will we tell the folks at home of what we saw and didn't see? And what will they think of us when we tell of a manger for a throne and a stable for a palace? They'll likely think us fools. I wonder still myself if we found anything or everything or more than we can know. For sure, a trip we won't forget, nor him we found, nor those we met along the way. Now the angel in our dreams with a warning, just in time, not this way home, but by another way, a new way now, the way of dreams. So mind the star, it's still above, but fading fast, so keep the peace. The light of faith, the light of that star is still above and has led us here, not to a manger where animals feed, but to this altar where Jesus feeds his people. As the Magi found him long ago, may we find Jesus today in his word, in the bread of communion, and in one another, brother and sister stargazers on a journey to seek, to find, and to follow Jesus. O star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.